Hi, my name is Sam Etamon Mogadam, and a couple things I found interesting in this week's Module 3 content is the Leadership Entanglement podcast, and more specifically, the humility aspect of it. It talks about how humility is a mitigating factor that helps people who are narcissistic or overconfident. The reason I thought that was pretty interesting is because I feel like we've all come across people who are arrogant, overconfident, and I think we all just thought they were just like, I don't think we ever looked at it as them lacking humility. I always just thought like, hey, that kid's just a douche or just not a nice person. But it's kind of like, it's interesting to see like there's an aspect of them obviously they were missing, which was humility. And I thought another thing was cool was how they talk about how big like CEOs, politicians, like they have an issue with narcissism. And there's so many examples to talk about throughout history of people who have kind of had so much success at some point then quickly fell because of their unethical actions. And a lot of these companies after that fell apart because they had none of them in the organization had humility, and all were kind of revolved around a narcissistic component. I thought it was interesting because I usually just thought that was more of a stupid decision. Maybe the leadership wouldn't make. I never really looked at it as maybe a narcissistic point of view. So that was pretty cool to me. And last but not least, this podcast talks about how to develop humility. They said the relationship with others, with loved ones, and self, and experience is shaped people's perceptions. I completely agree with that because I think coming in, I feel like being a senior now compared to my freshman year, I've changed so much based on a lot of the obstacles, whether it was a course or social basic problems or whatever like that. And I think that's changed me, like how I act, my viewpoint on how to handle different situations. So I 100% agree with that. And then the Clifton Strengths Assessment, so adaptability was one of mine, maximizer, strategic, competition, and communication were the 5 strengths. And it says, how would I utilize these strengths to benefit others? I think through communication and competition, I think those would be my most, because I think if not everyone's on the same page, I think that's just a recipe for disaster. I think it's all about if everyone knows their role, everyone does their job. I think that's a huge component to success and to, and that's how you benefit others. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page. And I think, and then competitiveness, I think everyone wants their leader to be passionate about what they're doing, passionate about success. They want their leader to be as passionate about the people surrounding them succeeding as just as much as themselves. So I think with those 2 components, I think everyone will find something I think that will lift everyone up in a certain way. So the Johari window model, so the one that's open and public to everyone is, I'm crazy passionate about sports, as you can see from my background. I love playing basketball. I'm literally at Nokomis for 3-4 hours a day just playing basketball. I think that's definitely one of my biggest obsessions. And I think in quadrant 2, a blind spot would be I think my friends do a good job of knowing when I'm kind of burnt out, gassed out of a situation. If I'm at a bar and I'm not really not having a great time just on my phone, they kind of can pick up on my vibe and try to switch it up, maybe go to a different bar, or we just go home and call it a night or something like that. Number 3 that's hidden or private is I'm a little bit more sensitive than people think. I do a good job not really showing my emotions, but I definitely react I definitely think about it a lot. I definitely feel when certain stuff is approached, I definitely can tighten up a little bit, and just it definitely irritates me to an extent, but I don't want people to know that per se, so I kind of keep it private. I think quadrant 4, which is unknown to myself and others, is maybe my I think I think sometimes I think I'm still as motivated academically as I was my freshman year, and I try, but it's just not, I think sometimes it's just easy for me to throw in the towel. Graduation's in a couple months, but I know I'm so close to the finish line, I don't want to blow it, but I think that's kind of my my unknown, my quadrant 4. and reflect on aspect individually. A couple of things that surprised me was I was surprised adaptability in this test was kind of up there. Like sometimes I think I'm good at adapting, but maybe not as like I wouldn't have put it one. And then reflect on aspects of individual identity. I think it's all about the people. I think huge thing for me is you are who you surround yourself with, and I'm proud to say like I'm proud of all my family members. I think they're terrific people. My friends, I kind of keep a close knit group. I don't really like. I think it's worth having a couple really close friends that share the same values and a big group who's kind of all over the place. That's just my take. And personality, I think I'm generous. I like to think I like keep, you know what I mean? Like keep everything a little bit lighthearted in a serious world. And I think I just do a good job of like, you know what I mean? Just putting people in a good mood, you know what I mean? With my sense of humor and all that good stuff. You know, I feel like people are comfortable talking with me. And, you know, and how these individuals how these aspects of individual identity contribute to how you see the world. I think it just shows that this world's very unique, and I think it's like you are what you make out of like what you make of it. You either like if you put in a lot of work, there's no guarantees in life, but it gives you a higher chance of succeed. And that's kind of how like you are like you're gonna get what you put into it. That's kind of like the best way of saying it. After completing module 3, what am I most curious about? I'm most curious about maybe the different types of like examples of how narcissism has failed like big companies, or like maybe different leadership's approach like 30 years ago compared to now. Maybe it's changed, maybe it's the exact same. Those are just a couple things. But yeah, thanks guys for listening to my take on this week's assignments. Hope to talk to you soon.